My experience with My opinion of Scream is tainted by my experience with it. I wanted to watch it for many years and just never got around to it. And so last year, when I finally did, I couldn't help myself. I immediately watched the second, third, and fourth Screams. But because of that, I can't help but fill in all the details from the later movies when I watch this one. This watching of OG Scream is also affected by the fact that I'm writing criticism of 31 films in a row. And though Scream was a groundbreaking film for the slasher genre in 1996, so many self-aware, borderline satirical slashers have been made since, and I've already watched and reviewed one that built directly on the back of Scream. And it learned its lessons pretty well. Where the characters from the Final Girls knew that they were literally in a slasher film, the characters in Scream simply relate to their situation based on their knowledge of the genre. My last note before jumping into the plot is that it can be jarring if you watch it to see Harvey Weinstein's name on screen, especially when Rose McGowan is one of the stars and her body is specifically commented on. It's gross, and I don't have much new to say about it, but it feels important to mention. As always, spoilers. The movie opens with that iconic scene of Drew Barrymore receiving a creepy phone call and discussing slasher films with her murderer. It's all very gruesome, and we're going to just skip to the next sequence where we meet our main characters for the rest of the film and the three who are going to propel us through all the sequels. First off, we have Sidney Prescott. It's been exactly 1 year since her mother was murdered. That's right, folks, it's dead mom hours again. Get used to it because horror movies rack up the dead mom body count about the same rate as Disney movies do. Sidney's mom's presumed murderer, Cotton Weary, is in jail, and she lives a relatively comfortable life with her father, who frequently goes out of town on business, just like this weekend. Resting serial killer-faced Skeet Ulrich plays Billy Loomis, Sidney's horny boyfriend, who totally understands why she isn't ready. Her mom was raped and murdered only a year ago. At school, everyone is buzzing about the double murder, and we meet Gail Weathers. She's a local reporter with big dreams. She believes that Cotton Weary is innocent, and she's even written a book about it. Let's get through the rest of these characters quickly. There's Tatum, Sid's best friend, and her boyfriend, Stuart, who is an all-around creep. Unlike Billy, a murder-specific creep. We also meet Randy, our horror movie scholar, who will guide us through the rest of Scream and Scream 2. Finally, we have Deputy Dewey, Tatum's older brother and the world's one good cop. The kids in this town are absolute psychos, and they love to taunt their classmates who just lost two friends. After Sidney gets attacked, she stays with Tatum. The principal gets murdered. Stu throws a party and everyone from school comes, as well as Gail, her cameraman, and Dewey. Surprisingly, murders start happening at the party. While Randy explains that sex in a horror movie is an automatic death sentence, Sidney decides that she's finally ready. Billy, who had already been arrested and cleared of the murders, gets stabbed right after they finish. And then the rest of the movie is a non-stop bloodbath where everything gets explained, and I'm going to do my best to streamline that explanation. Sidney's mom liked to sleep with men around town, including Cotton Weary and Billy's dad. come to think of it, we did get to see Billy's dad in the movie earlier, and the fact that Billy was dating his dead mistress's daughter never comes up. I don't know what that means. Anyway, Billy was mad that Sid's mom caused his mom to leave them, so he murdered her last year and pinned it on Cotton. Apparently, this flipped Billy and Stu's murder switches because they decided to get the Ghostface mask and do a bunch more murders. Their plan is to kill as many of their classmates as possible, injure themselves, and be the only survivors. Never trust a psycho killer, though, because Billy betrays Stu and kills him for real. The movie ends with Billy and Stu dead, and Sidney, Randy, Gail, and Dewey still alive. Reviewing Scream is complicated because its point is to satirize slasher films while also being a quality slasher film, which it succeeds at, but I want to talk about themes, and that's where this one's specific age makes it weird. This is the Gen X horror film. The slashers are slackers, and every character but Dewey is so irony poisoned that they just can't survive. Apologies to Gen X viewers, but your media looks pretty juvenile and hollow from a 2020 vantage point. That said, Scream does function well as a coming-of-age story, and it kind of takes on the dead mom grief that The Final Girls knocks out of the park 2 decades later. The real lesson here is avoid people who look like Skeet Ulrich. 6 out of 10 for meaning. Scream is a technically exquisite film. The script is tight, the characters are strong, the camera work is good but not great, and the sets are iconic. The sets bring me to what needs to be said about the social awareness of Scream. All the houses in this film are massive and beautiful, and it fully treats this as normal. Which it might be, because this might be the most segregated town in horror history. Every single character is white aside from an unnamed reporter, and no one comments on all the McMansions. This isn't strictly about technique, but it should lose the film a point for lack of imagination. Highly competent film, 7 out of 10. While editing, I decided that the camera work actually is great, and it gets 1 extra point, actually 8 out of 10. Scream continues to be hard to rate because there's a lot of fun to be had, and it's certainly rewatchable, but there are a lot of things that make my skin crawl. One thing is how casually everyone throws in that Sid's mom was not only murdered, but also raped. Another is how most of the teens in town are sociopaths who are excited to see their principal's corpse and think it's fun to terrorize each other with the Ghostface costume. The fun of the characters in the story is definitely thrown off by the particular way in which it is divorced from reality. For that, it earns a 7 out of 10. Slashers don't typically strike me as genuinely frightening for a lot of reasons, and the thing about Scream is that it understands those reasons. So instead of trying what all the other big ones do, jump scares, gross out masks, it makes the killer a mystery with several strong red herrings, and it strips the costume down to just the mask and flowing robes that obscure the killer's identity. The gore is gross, and several of the moments are surprising, but the real terror lives in the mystery. Sidney is forced to consider the idea that her own father is the killer as the police suspect him, and she learns more about her mother. The tension is released when her father is revealed alive and innocent at the end, but the fear that someone you love could be hurting someone else you love is real. The fact that Scream makes me hold my breath during well-lit scenes and the tension of the phone call scenes gives this an above-average score for scares, 7 out of 10. Which brings our total score to 27 out of 40. Whenever I get to covering the Scream sequels, we'll talk about the history and satire of these films, but for today we'll leave it here. And now, it's time for a message from our Bobby.
I'm gonna need y'all to do me a favor and smash the like button, comment, subscribe, let us know what kind of content you want. You commenting lets us know what you want to see and helps us make videos that, the audience will really enjoy. And plus, it helps the YouTube algorithm, And yeah. I don't know.